Hello, everybody. I wanted to talk to you today about something that has been really showing up a lot in my client sessions. And as usual, it's probably because it's something that has been on my mind and in my heart and part of my own personal discovery and exploration lately. And I want to talk to you about the process of lining up with your desire as opposed to talking yourself out of it. So my name is Lisa Rose. I am a love and dating coach. I am the founder of Deeper Love, Better Sex, and I help successful singles clear their blocks to love, get good at dating, and find your match. So as you pop on, please say hello. So I'm just going to start with a brief, kind of client story because it showed this so obviously. I was talking with a client the other day who was a new client, and one of the questions I asked her was, tell me a little bit about your love vision. Like if we could wave a magic wand and make it exactly the way you'd like it to be, what would be happening? And she started describing it, and that part was actually pretty clear. But what was missing is I could feel that it was kind of like she was telling me more like a fantasy, like she kind of had this sort of idea. But then when I asked her, can you actually feel that? Like, can you actually imagine that as real? There was this real disconnect, both in her body and in her heart. Like those two things just weren't lining up. And that was an indicator of how she kind of liked it as an idea. It sounded good to her on paper, but her heart and her soul wasn't really lined up with it. And as we probed a little bit deeper, it turns out that a lot of that was because she just didn't believe that that was possible. It's like, yeah, that sounds good. Of course, I'd like that to be happening. But it was so far out of what she could imagine or envision. I'm going to put these on so I can see who that is. Hi, Autumn. What she could imagine or envision to actually occur, that she was shutting it down before she was allowing that desire to be fed with her intention and her desire, and then whatever actions she felt prompted to do. So what I've discovered in my own self is that I have really big visions, like just a couple of them that are currently really exciting for me, that I have tended to talk myself out of, and I've been noticing that tendency, and so I've just been changing the internal conversation. One of them is I want to travel to the world. I want to go to the nooks and crannies. I want to spend probably 3 months out of every year living in another country. There's a lot of the world that I really want to see. And I've had a lot of stories and beliefs about how that's not possible, how I can't run a successful business and be in different time zones and figure out all of the minutia that goes with being in a different country and a different culture. So it's like, for quite a while, I was actually talking myself out of that before I allowed the seed of inspiration and excitement to really germinate. And this is what I see so often when it comes to love, dating, and relationship. I've kind of healed that in myself. I mean, I certainly used to not believe in it years ago, but now that I've had a number of really successful long-term partnerships, I have a sense of success, so I don't really doubt that. But we all have areas where it's like it's a stretch area to believe, oh, that could be possible. And for a lot of the women that I speak with, it's things like believing that there's a man out there who's going to be equally interested in her as she is in him, who's going to be supportive, who's going to be committed, who's going to be honest and trustworthy and interesting. And it's like when they fill out what would actually excite her, she goes very quickly to how he doesn't exist, how that's not possible for her, what's wrong with her. And so a lot of what I do, and I really see that this is one of the main things that happens, especially in my 90-day program, because I actually had to hire somebody who I could have some accountability, hi Sharon, some accountability and some kind of help reorienting my very deeply ingrained habit and pattern of kind of shutting down my desires, especially the ones that felt like a reach, to actually feeding them. and believing in them in a way where it seems like the most normal thing in the world was for them to happen. So I'm noticing more and more in my work with clients that it takes about 90 days both to change the pattern, but to have enough time to really be supported through some of the more subtle and insidious and kind of like little sort of sneaky ways that you might be essentially shutting down. I got to put these on. I can't see who's here. Hi, Melissa. Hey, if you're just joining, please put something in the comments. Just say hello so I know that you're here, so that you don't go so immediately to that process of talking yourself out of. Right? So there's a couple of steps that kind of are the process, and this is actually what I do in my 90-day program, which I just recently renamed. I'm now calling it From Disappointment to Delight, 90 Days to Love Your Love Life. And this name kind of came to me as I stepped back and I observed what it was that was actually happening with the clients who were in that 90-day program. They go from being really disappointed and a lot of discouragement about what's been happening and what they imagine is going to continue to happen in their dating and love life, to not feeling hopeful just, on a theory, but because they're actually dating a great man and they are delighting in having an experience that's really quite different than what they've had before. So a lot of what happens is the first thing is kind of get them in alignment with their vision. So that's a process of really filling out, like, what do you actually want? What's going to be exciting for you? Because it's really hard to join our energy with something that you're kind of lukewarm about, right? Like if I was telling myself, oh yeah, I want to go live in a, cold, wet climate for the winter, that wouldn't be something that I'd have a lot of juice behind. But when a woman starts talking to me about, the way she wants to feel with her man and how it really adds to her life and contributes and all that, there's energy there, there's excitement. So part of it is really fleshing that out and then clearing out the beliefs, the blocks, the patterns of thinking that are the things that keep you from having it be a hopeful, maybe one day, but probably not an idea, to actually embodying it and manifesting it. And some of those things that really kind of are in between are beliefs, ideas, old hurts, old pain, referencing how it's been in the past and assuming that how it's been in the past, disappointing, not so great, is going to be what it's going to be like for you in the future. So if you have ever caught yourself referring to the past and assuming that there's more of that waiting for you in the future and not feeling super excited about that, put some emoji in the comments. I want to know. I certainly have done that. This has been one of the most powerful habits that I have very intentionally and very earnestly really been breaking that pattern, because what it does is it keeps the bar set at whatever I've experienced in the past, which isn't necessarily what I want more of. So if you're just popping on, make sure you say hello. Let me know if this is landing with you, if you have any comments or questions. I want to walk you through a little bit of the steps that happen in those 90 days, because I just opened up 2 slots. This is my highest touch program. This is where clients get the most results. There's a lot that happens in those 90 days. I actually had a woman say to me, these were her own words. She said, I don't recognize my life from how it was before I started working with you. So the first thing that we do is, part of what I mentioned, like we really flesh out what is it that would be happening that would have you feel successful in love. Who here wants to feel successful in love? I know a lot of you feel successful in your career and you have a confidence there, and there's probably a lot of areas in your life where you feel successful. What would it be like for you if you could add your love and relationship part to the categories that you feel successful in? Like, just, let me know in a word or so. What would that feel like? So as you flesh out this vision, what's in the way of that also just naturally starts to bubble up. And these are the things that we clear out. Often there's some body image issues, there's insecurities about not being beautiful enough, or not being thin enough, or being old, or being overweight. All of that is just bullshit. It's really just the story that you tell yourself, because when you turn on your own sense of beauty and radiance, and you really believe in yourself and in your lovability, men will start flocking to you. This is just what happens. And I don't mean any man. High quality men who are men of integrity, attractive men who you actually want to date, right? Because it doesn't matter if just some bozo off the street is flocking to you. So we clean that stuff up. We also address things like boundaries. How do you have a conversation where you really clearly express your needs and your wants and your desires, but you don't do it like a sergeant. You don't do it in a really masculine way where he's going to feel kind of blamed or judged, or he's not going to feel like, wow, that makes me feel more endeared to you. There's a particular way of expressing with a man, and it's not like it's a code. It comes very naturally as you get more used to just being in your feminine. It's like the difference between going from being accusatory to being curious. That's actually a boundary. So we handle stuff like boundaries. We talk about, how do you have a conversation with men that is maybe different than the way that you'd have a conversation with your girlfriends? How do you keep inviting him to come closer to you, to want more of you, to be more committed, to be more engaged? Like, it's not like this is sort of, it's not abstract, but there are a lot of things. It took me a while to figure this out, and then I did figure them out. I started having very different quality of connection with men. I never ever feel like I have to chase or pursue a man. And then the big one is, how do you keep this going? How do you keep showing up in a way? Maybe there's a little glitch, a little conversation that didn't go so well. Those kinds of things can actually make or break conversations. I've had so many women come to me and it's like, yeah, I thought we were doing fine, and then we had this conversation and things were said and it got really ugly, and I said things I didn't mean to say and he said things. It's like, there's a way to avoid that by knowing how to have clear conversations along the way, even when there's a heated, charged topic, because it only takes one of those really bad conversations in a newer relationship where you don't have a lot of foundation of trust with each other. I've had this happen, not recently, but I've definitely had shit blow up in my face. It's not fun. So those are the things that pretty much get addressed. And then, of course, the beauty of working one-on-one is that we really zero in on where are your biggest blocks, blind spots, and barriers. And when those clear up, it's like every week you start to notice how different you feel about love, how much more aligned you start to feel with actually attracting and sustaining the kind of relationship that you'd like. If right now you knew that you could attract and sustain a relationship with a man that totally lit you up, what would that be like? Just put a word in the comments. I want to hear. I don't think it would be in the area of discouraged or disappointed. I think it would be more in the hopeful or delighted. So I have 2 spots that are going to be coming up. It's a 90-day program. It's $27.95 when you pay in full. I do have a payment plan, so that's an option. This is the kind of decision you do not want to make from your head. This is not the kind of decision to run through your mind, because it's your heart and your soul and your body that knows if this is right for you. And your brain will do everything it can to talk you out of it. So especially if your pattern and your tendency is to talk yourself out of your desires, I want to invite you to just make a little space and just kind of tune into your heart and just start to wonder, what would it feel like to you to have the support at every stage as you get ready to date, as you go on dates, as you hit bumps with the people that you're dating, as you get into territory that you have made a mess of before, and this time you want to navigate it more cleanly and more successfully. What would it be like to be supported at every step of the way so that this time you actually succeed in your love life and you feel good about the way your relationship is growing and deepening and blossoming? So that's a question for your heart. And if you are getting a yes that this is something that would be helpful for you, we can hop on a call. I can answer your questions. We can just see if it's a fit. You know, I don't invite everybody that I talk to work with me. It actually has to be a fit. It has to feel like a fit for both of us. So really the only way to know is to have a conversation. So if you're listening to this and your heart is kind of bubbling and murmuring and feeling excited or feeling nervous or feeling scared, that's your heart talking. I'd hate for you to shut that down. Just reach out to me on Facebook. You can send me a message and we will schedule something. And what would it be like for you to leave behind the landscape of disappointment and discouragement and desperation and move into the realm of delight and, well, delight. What was the other word I was going to say? Delight? Yeah, delight. Delight's pretty good. So when you pop on to catch the replay, please let me know you are here by saying hello. Let me know where you're listening in from and any particular takeaways that you are leaving with. I always like to hear those. Have a beautiful day. I send you lots of love. Bye.